nutmeg essential oils video. Don't know what I'm going to do next. However, the new Young Living Holiday 2016 collection is now available. I think I'm going to do a little something about that and go over those things with you. And I think after that, I'm going to do ginger essential oil, if that sounds good. Feel free to go ahead and leave comments or email me or something. Anyhow, how are things? Well, today was a therapy day. And it wasn't a bad one. It was a pretty good one. I know the other day I was talking about, well, just things. Today, a lot of it was, there was a point where I had to say, it is what it is. But it wasn't just me being passive about things. We were discussing how to, about coming up with a way to, I mean, him and I, we already discussed ways I can it's hard to say because it's really difficult to say how much one can actually control being bipolar. I mean, you can't control it. You either are or you aren't. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to hit one of those polar opposites. I know last week we were discussing ways to, the tools and the things that I call the tools in my toolbox to help me cope with either one of those extremes. Now, when I'm hypomanic, like I was this past week and a half, 2 weeks, I focused that into something really physical, and I want to say creative, but if I just say creative, then you'd be like, why didn't she make the video when she said she was going to make the video? Well, the problem with that is I would have loved to. Honestly, I really would have. And actually, I did make the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint was all ready to go. Now, what happened was, when I get hypomanic, now mind you, I'm only talking about myself. I don't know about you guys, whether you are bipolar or have other forms of depression or know people that are, and everyone experiences it differently, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just my experience. And so what I discuss about my experiences are just my experiences, nobody else's. Now, I would love for you to discuss, if you are comfortable with that, your experiences, and maybe we can help each other and help other people. That's kind of why I do it. But really, when I get hypomanic, I have a really difficult time concentrating on any one thing for any specific length of time, and trying to get my train of thought to stay on track and not veer off like every 5 seconds is really, really hard to do. And that would require so much editing that most of the video would be editing and not so much videoing. So yeah, I would burn myself out on one video. But even so, I would not have been able to focus and keep my attention and be present in what I'm trying to create for you. And with you, because this is stuff that you guys have said you wanted to see. Guys and gals. Essential oils, just like makeup, are for everybody. Okay? This is a unisex channel. This is multi-sex channel. Everyone is welcome here. It's all good. It's all good. Multi-gender. All over it. But I sometimes they're called coping skills, and to me they're more than learning how to cope, because to me the term coping means that I am submitting to this thing, the demon inside my head called bipolar disorder type 2. And there's a power in a name. Yesterday I was talking about the whole Rumpelstiltskin analogy, where the woman in the story had to come up with the name of that troll or the little person or the dwarf or whatever it was who captured her and is making her spin gold thread out of straw, otherwise he's going to take her firstborn child. And she comes up with the name, and that alone defeats the captor. I liken the disease, bipolar, to the little guy, the troll, the dwarf or whatever it was that captured her. And like that story, there's a power in having something to call the demon. The demon now has a name. And yesterday I mentioned that there were 20 years between the original diagnosis of manic depression to the one that I have now, which is that I got 2 months ago, which was bipolar type 2. Which, regardless of what I actually knew and researched on my own, because I was unable to get help that I've needed for such a long time, or anything that resembled anything decent in terms of help, then there's also power in having that name placed on documentation, because that allows me to get even better help when I need it. And since I am on medical assistance, that allows me to get better treatment options, because there's proof that I'm not just blowing smoke up their butts. You know what I mean? And now that they've done this whole wonderful thing where they've gone back to this thing where I have to sign every single time for the appointment. I know that there are doctors and psychologists and stuff that are trying to cheat the system. I know that. But honestly, that's actually very few and far between. I know there's doctors that are prescribing medications, and I know it's an epidemic, the opioids, but there are people that really need help, and these things make it really, really difficult for those who truly need the help to get it. It makes it nigh to impossible. I could only go to see him without a referral because he does not prescribe. But I still need to sign that paper, which was just like a new thing that I learned about today. Anyway, today we were talking about one of the things that we were discussing was, I said it is what it is, meaning that I have acknowledged the presence of this thing, the bipolar, the demon, the I don't consider it a captor. It's not a captor. It is not a captor. It does not capture me. I do not submit to it. And that's what we were discussing to that end. That the moment I stopped submitting to it, the moment I stopped telling myself that, or feeling, or thinking, or whatever, that I'm broken because of past abusive relationships or whatever, feeling like I'm broken is the moment I was started to be able to help myself, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The polars, the um, right now I'm in maintenance mode. Maintenance is good. Maintenance is really good because, and if I'm lucky, I can keep on that for a little while. I can ride that out. That's pretty cool. I like this. I'm focused. I can communicate. I can do what I need to do. I can keep my motivation up to do the stuff that I don't want to do, but I have to do it anyway, like cleaning, like doing my homework, like taking care of myself, sleeping, eating on regular schedules, sleeping, going to bed on time, waking up on time, running my errands when I have to run my errands, not just talk myself out of it. Say, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. But there's power in that acknowledgement as well as the name. There is power in that. And one has to be careful, however, to not just say it is what it is and submit to it. That itself can be very dangerous. I've chosen not to submit to my bipolar. I know it's hard. It's very hard. It's hard every single frickin' day. I know how hard it is. It's not easy. Just because I say it out of my face does not make it easy by any sense of the imagination. All I'm saying is that I refuse to bow. Hold on. Grace! Stop breaking my house! Stop. My cat is breaking things in my house. And I don't understand why. Will you get the stink bugs and stop breaking my house? Thank you. I love her. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. I don't want to submit to it because I don't want to lose to it. Because if I'm not careful, those demons will win. Those demons are evil. It's like they chomp little bit by little bit at not the physical brain, but the non-physical brain. And there's this whole mind-body connection thing or mind-body problem that really got me seriously interested in philosophy in the first place. And I'll talk about that another day because that can be a little complicated. But the long and short of it is there's the mind, the non-physical part, and then there's the brain, the physical part. Now, we can understand that they are separate, but are they more together than they are separate? Do they influence each other? Does the mind influence the brain, or does the brain influence the mind, or do they both do both? And to what degree? And is the mind really all that non-physical? Are we more mind than we are body? That's really what it is. That's the very basics of the mind-body problem, which I will be happy to talk about at a later date. If anyone is interested in that, feel free to thumbs up this video when it actually gets back into becoming a video instead of a live chat, or you can, leave a comment or an email or something, and I will be happy to talk about it. Because I'll have to get some notes and stuff together, because it's a complex subject. Not necessarily for you to understand, but for me to speak about in a cohesive way. I would want to make notes. You know me and notes. I love notes and PowerPoint presentations, especially in something where I could get a little lost in, and that's definitely one of those things. I've done multiple papers on it, but it still baffles me, because it's been baffling philosophers for centuries, the mind-body problem. But it truly is such a fascinating subject matter. Anyway, it is what it is, not submitting, but using the acknowledgement of the bipolar, the Um, well, it's kind of like the Four Noble Truths, in Buddhism, if you're not familiar with that. They are the Four Noble Truths is Buddha's first sermon after his enlightenment, and it's centered on this foundation, which is also the foundation of Buddhism, which is the truth of suffering, or dukkha. There is suffering. And then number 2 is the truth of the cause of suffering. There is number 1 for me would be, I have bipolar. That is my suffering. Then, okay, there is suffering. I am suffering because that's part of life. Number 2, the cause of the suffering. The cause of my suffering is bipolar. I am acknowledging that this exists in my little world. The truth of the end of suffering. Suffering has an end. It's not a permanent thing. There is no permanence. And the way I understand that from when I was going to the Buddhist meditation group here in town is that to end a great deal of suffering is, well, it can also be translated as desire, not so much suffering, but desire. And to end the desire, one must detach from the thing that is causing the desire. So suffering, desire, it's not necessarily so much like, it's a spectrum of things. It's all dependent on the situation and the person. But number 3 for me would be, I do not want to attach myself. I don't want to let this bipolar rule my life. I do not want it to have, I know it's there and it's going to be there. There is no cure at this time. That does not mean that there won't be. And that doesn't mean it's not something I'm hopeful for, because leaps and bounds are made in medicine every day. Hopefully there will be sooner rather than later. However, to submit to it is to give the disease, to give the demon power. It already has enough power. You don't get to decide if you're going to have, if one is going to have a high or a low. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When will it happen? But, and how hard the hit is going to be. Now, I think that the toolbox isn't just for when the hit strikes, or the mania or the low strikes. It's, the toolbox is not just for that. It's for finding ways to help ease the ascent to the mania or ease the descent into the low. And even ease the way out of those too, because they can be sometimes they can be abrupt, and sometimes they can be exhausting. And exhaustion does not help. So, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and if there's a way that I can find out how to, or if there's a method, if there is something that I can put into my toolbox to help soften the landing and not necessarily slow my descent, but keep the jarring to a minimum and decrease the percentage of decline. make the angle make it not such a steep thing. Make it more of a glide. Make it a little bit more gentle. There's a tool that I can put into my toolbox for that. That is how I end my suffering. I mean, eventually I will die because that's life. You know, you only know that there's only two dates, two times in one's life that are absolute certainty. The day you are born, the day you die. And you don't necessarily know that day either. But it is as it is. But don't attach to it. Don't submit to it. Don't let it control you as much as possible. That's where that is. And then, of course, number 4 is the truth of the pain that frees us from suffering, which there's the whole Eightfold Path too, but I'm not really here to talk about Buddhism at this time. But I'll talk about that too if anyone wants me to talk about that, and the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. I'll be happy to talk about that at a later time too. Just let me know. These are a lot more open and less structured than my videos. These are more open to interpretation, open to topics, changing between topics through the things. So let me guys, let me know what y'all want to talk about. Happy to do it. My cat is driving me bonkers right now. Yay. So that's what we were really talking about today. So that was a really interesting conversation. I really like him because he's also a Buddhist. And so we can talk about this stuff back and forth while using it to help me. Because I understand it. It's something I understand. It's something that I study. It's something that I practice and follow. And so we're using this thing that we both understand to an advantage, to using it to help me not attach to this demon, to to not submit to the disease. So it's pretty clever. That's why I say I've learned more about my disease, my mental illness, in the 2 months that I've been with him than the 2 years that I was with Pennsylvania Counseling Services because of this. Because of this. I mean, we've just, it's like every time we get in there, we just like hammer this crap out. It's amazing. We just kind of like gel. We get it. You know, he doesn't have bipolar, and that's part of why I said it is what it is. It's because we were bitching about medical assistance and community care crap with all of that, and and I was telling him how much of a pain in the butt it's been for not just my physical stuff, but this mental illness, this mental health stuff, trying to find, a way to help myself, but, that I can help myself with. When I need to find someone to help me help myself. And, man, he's just a brilliant guy. Anyway, so that's really where I've been today. Other than that, it really hasn't been too much. But actually, that was a pretty huge thing today. And I try to celebrate those victories. I don't really believe in a breakthrough. I guess it depends on the situation, but it wasn't really a breakthrough, isn't it? It wasn't even really a realization. It was more of a, okay, I understand you, I understand your point, and we can work with this, and we can figure out how you can add another tool, or what kind of tools we can find and create for you together so that can soften the rate of descent or ascent and the hit from a hypomanic state to normalcy to a low dive. So, other than that, it's just been school and studying and reading crap and things. Mostly things. I did, however, get a pair of reading glasses, though. So I can actually read my textbook now. They look kind of cute. But anyway, I think that is all for today. If you have any topics you would like to talk about, I'm always happy to do that. If you liked any of the ideas that came up while I was talking about the mind-body problem, or talking about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, a little bit more about Buddhism, I'd be happy to talk about those, or anything else that seems interesting to y'all. That's what I'm here for, and that's what live chat's all about. Is more community building than just. It was more community building, more learning from each other, not just me saying, here, this is the thing. These are words that are coming out of my face, and this is stuff that I put onto a PowerPoint. I mean, I like doing that too, don't get me wrong. All right, I will talk to you all again, hopefully tomorrow. And then we shall figure out what the poop on the scoop is, and I will try to keep you in the loop, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. May you be well, may you be happy,